be to neglect a topic like this. Very easy. Because you don't want to offend anybody. You don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable. But sometimes God shakes us up. Sometimes God moves us. Sometimes when we have embraced Him unknowingly. And I've met so many sincere Christians, so many that just love Jesus, but they just don't have the evidence. They've just never thought about this. Now, the Convert's Catechism is really quite an interesting document. If you were a Protestant and wanted to convert to Catholicism, you would have to take a course. And in that course, you would go through the Convert's Catechism, a Catholic doctrine. In the Catechism, you would read, and then I'm just quoting the Catechism. This is what it says, the Convert's Catechism. Which is the Sabbath day? Answer, Saturday is the Sabbath day. That's quite amazing in the Catechism, isn't it? You know, I never knew these things when I was brought up, but when I began to study the Bible and began to study history, it was not an easy change for me. It was not an easy change at all. I was young, 17 years old, captain of the Catholic basketball team, working on a variety of projects with the church, thinking about being a priest. But I felt the tugging of God in my heart. There was something stronger for me than tradition. Something stronger for me personally. I can only give you my personal testimony. You've got to make the decision that God leads you to make. And I would never presuppose that I know what you ought to do. But once you have the facts, you can get on your knees and cry out to God and say, God, tell me what you want me to do. God, tell me what you want me to do. But be honest with God. Be honest with God. In the Catechism I read, which is the Sabbath day? Here's the answer. Saturday is the Sabbath day. Look, why do we observe Sunday instead of Sabbath? Answer, because the Catholic Church transferred the solemnity from Saturday to Sunday. So it is clear in the Catechism. This is not something done in hiding. Here's the Catholic Encyclopedia. This is the foremost treatise of Catholic doctrine. Let's just read the encyclopedia. It's volume 4, 153. The Church, after changing the day of rest from the Jewish Sabbath, the seventh day of the week, to the first. Now, there's a couple problems here. First, of course, it's the Catholic Church. They say in the encyclopedia they changed it from the Jewish Sabbath. Certainly not the Jewish Sabbath. It certainly was given at creation, certainly in the Ten Commandments. Now, notice, the Church, after changing the day of rest from the Jewish Sabbath, the seventh day of the week, to the first, made the third commandment refer to Sunday as the day to be kept as the Lord's Day. Now, notice it says the third commandment. What is the Sabbath commandment in the Bible? Which one is that? The fourth. Why do they say the third? Because you drop the second. Why do you drop the second? Because the second says, thou shalt not make any graven image or have any idols. So you drop that. But if you drop the second, you only have how many? 9. So what do you have to do? You have to take the one on coveting and divide it in 2. Thou shalt not covet my neighbor's wife. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's goods. Now remember the Bible said in Daniel 7 verse 25, he shall think to change the time and the what? Laws, plural. So how do you change the time and the laws? By changing the Sabbath, by dropping the second commandment, and making the ninth commandment into 2. Karl Keating is probably the leading lay Catholic scholar in America today. When I was in San Diego holding lectures, Karl Keating's secretary came to my meetings. And it was really a fascinating discussion. Karl Keating wrote a book that he called Catholicism and Fundamentalism. And he was attacking Protestantism. And here was his argument. Here's Keating's argument. He says, you Protestants who believe in the Bible and the Bible only, you ought to go back to keeping Sabbath, Saturday. But he said if you don't do that and you keep Sunday, you should at least be honest and accept the authority of the Catholic Church that changed the day from Saturday to Sunday. So here's his argument. Let me read it to you. It's page 38 of Catholicism and Fundamentalism. Fundamentalists, he uses that term for Bible-believing Christians, meet for worship on Sunday. Yet there is no evidence in the Bible that corporate worship was to be made on Sundays. The Jewish Sabbath, or day of rest, was, of course, Saturday. It was the Catholic Church, and he's right here. He's not right about the Jewish Sabbath, it's the Bible Sabbath, but he's right in this sentence. It was the Catholic Church that decided Sunday should be the day of worship for Christians in honor of the resurrection. So what he's saying is that if the church has the authority to change the law written with God's own finger, then if you're going to be true and you want to worship on Sunday, go accept the authority of the church. But if you believe the authority of the Bible is greater than the church, and if you believe the authority of God is greater than the authority of man. Now, this is well known not only among Catholic scholars. Let me show you some things among Protestant scholars. This is the Toronto Daily Star, October 26, 1949. Philip Carrington is an Anglican Archbishop of Quebec. And there was a great meeting of pastors in Quebec. And the Toronto Daily Star reports on that on its front page. And they said, Reverend Philip Carrington, an Anglican Bishop of Quebec, sent local clergymen into a huddle today by saying outright that there was nothing to support keeping Sunday holy. Carrington definitely told a church meeting in this city of straight-laced Protestantism that tradition, not the Bible, made Sunday the day of worship. He's right. It came in tradition to unite the empire. If one wants to get back to the Bible, one gets back to the Sabbath. Now, the author of the Baptist Manual, his name was Edward Hiscox. There was a great convention of Baptist pastors, November 13, 1893. I don't know how you can get anything more authoritative from a Baptist than take the man that authored the Dr. Edward Hiscox, who authored the Baptist Manual. So there's this great ministerial convention. And Hiscox says this. He's talking about Sabbath, and he says, what a pity that it, Sunday, he's contrasting that to the Bible Sabbath, comes branded with the mark of paganism. He's right. Sunday, day of the sun, Sun God. And christened with the name of the Sun God. Then adopted and sanctioned by the papal apostasy. So Sunday comes from where? From the worship of the pagans that we saw, Egypt, Babylon, Persia, Rome. Then it's adopted in the papal apostasy there in that early centuries, and it's bequeathed as a sacred legacy to Protestantism. He's very clear. What are the central issues in the change of the Sabbath from Saturday the 7th day to Sunday the 1st? What are the real issues? If you just boil them down, what are those issues? The issues have to do with who we follow. What's the foundation of our faith? That's a fundamental question. What is the foundation of our faith? Is it the Bible and what God says, or is it tradition in what man says? What are the fundamental issues? What's to be the guide of our faith? Is it the Bible or historical tradition? What is the basis of authority? This is a fundamental question. What's the basis of authority in spiritual matters? Does the church have the authority to change the Ten Commandments? Does the church have the authority to modify or change scriptures? What is the basis of authority? Is it the church, or is it God's will revealed in the Bible and in the Ten Commandment law? What are the issues? The issue really is, who is my master? Really, if I'm totally, absolutely committed to Christ, can I accept a change by church leaders in the compromise period? This is something that every serious-minded Christian ought to be praying through. Who is my real master? Do I accept tradition? Am I shaped what I have learned in the past? Or am I willing to make a decision for the Christ of the cross, who gave everything for me? What is our choice? What are the issues? The Bible or tradition? Jesus or religious leaders? God's law or man's dogmas? God's instruction or human teachings? God's way or man's way? The book of Revelation, in trumpet tones, calls a generation back to Jesus Christ, back to faith in Christ, and back to obedience to Christ.